Hey there everybody, this is Robin with Creative2xmom, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the books we read in the month of June. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. And in today's video we're going to talk about the books that I read in the month of June, as well as the read-alouds that we did with our kids. So June was a busy reading month for me. We finished school at the end of May and I hardly did any finishing out with our stuff. In fact, I still need to go through stuff in our school bookcase and clean a few things out. But I was just excited to spend my free time reading. I have such a long list of books that I always want to read. In fact, I shared my summer goals a couple of weeks ago and I will link that video down below. So I just took off reading, and that's basically what I spent all my free time doing in the month of June. My poor children, I think they feel a little neglected. The first book that I read this month was The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is a classic children's literature read. I did an online class in the month of May, I think it was, and it was all classic children's lit. And they covered Wind in the Willows, and I realized I have never read that. It's a suggestion on Ambleside Online, I think, for 7th or 8th grade, which is the level that my daughter is in, and I didn't feel right assigning it when it's one of those classics that I've never read myself. Wind in the Willows. It's sweet, it's gentle. I think this would be a great read aloud, even for younger years. The vocabulary is still rich and challenging for those older grades, and as a mom I enjoyed it myself. Not a super challenging read, but a good look at friendship, a good look at discovering the world. And having done that online class before I read it, it really opened up a lot of the themes in the story of maturing and friendship and home, and just making home where you are. The next book that I read in the month of June was Philip Yancey's Prayer Doesn't Make a Difference. I have been on this journey of wanting to pray more, wanting to know more about prayer, wanting to be a more effective prayer, if you will. So I picked this one up at my local library. Philip Yancey is very, very solid, but if you've read his books before, he has a way of writing that is such higher level that sometimes for my mom brain, I had to be like, okay, wait a minute, let me read that again. This took me a little bit over a month just reading in bits and chunks because it was a challenging read. I think he's got a lot of insight, a lot of what he shared about how prayer changes the person praying and how prayer focuses us and refocuses us on the Lord. I agreed with a lot of what he had to say in this book. Now, he hit the miraculous healing topic late in the book, and I read it and I reread it and I went, wait a minute. It didn't resonate at all with the way I think, the way I believe. That was probably the one topic in this book that I hit that chapter and I thought, I had to rethink everything that he had talked about because it was so radically different from my personal beliefs. So if you have a strong belief in miraculous healing, I would almost skip to that chapter at some point to decide if this book is worth your time. I still go back and forth, and I think I spent investing all this time in this book to hit that chapter and then be like, wait a minute. I've just ingested everything you have to say and now I completely disagree with you. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. The next book that I read in the month of June was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is, again, a challenging read, a classic read. It reads very smoothly. You're following this story of some individuals in a very utopian society. They no longer, babies are born out of a test tube. They are genetically modified for particular jobs, for particular classes in society. Certain people are looked down upon because of their class in society, but it's because they were genetically modified to fulfill that role, and then you've got this upper class, and you meet this upper cast person who goes back, and he goes to what's called the reservation, and they meet the savages there. And it's just people that have not been genetically modified. They are living life as human beings, and they are looked down upon as uncivilized. And he starts to question his whole system that he has been raised in, because he brings one of these people home with him, and their mind is just blown by what society has become. Nobody thinks for themselves. Everything is about entertainment and comfort and an easy life. I think that this is a very timely read. Should have been on the required reading list probably for the past 30 or 40 years, because it is a great look into what we have become today. The next book that I read in the month of June, I needed to get away. This was such a heavy read. I thought, okay, I need something a little bit light and sweet, and so I picked up Bambi. Now, Bambi is a suggested read from Ambleside online. I don't remember if it's for 4th or 5th grade. I was looking at books for my son who's going into 5th grade, and it was one of those that caught my eye. I wanted to pre-read, but really I wanted to just read it for myself. And I think a lot of us know the classic Disney story of Bambi. Of course, the book is always slightly different from the movie, so there were some things in this book that were really insightful to me. And that was Bambi's relationship with his father. After his mother, it never says that she dies, but that's what it's implied. And his father takes on this mentoring relationship with him until he finally passes on the family legacy. It's one of those books that I wouldn't say, oh my goodness, as an adult it challenged me or anything like that, but it is one of those books that I'm glad I read, having had that extra insight of the details that it includes. And the last book that I read personally in the month of June was Family Driven Faith. This is by Voddie Baucham Jr. I have never had a chance to read any of his books. I was introduced to him as a speaker with a series that he did. It's posted on YouTube, so I will link it below. It was called Children of Caesar, and the way he spoke about the family and the parents' responsibility to disciple and raise their children really resonated with me. So when my library was able to get this one, I grabbed it off the shelf right away. This is, I think, one of his first books that was published. Don't quote me on that. But this book goes into a lot of those same concepts about how the Christian home has almost abdicated their authority to the church and passed on their children and expected the church to disciple their children and raise their children in the faith, and how that is so counter-biblical that we are commanded in the Bible to raise our children as unto the Lord. This goes through a lot of the whys and the hows of how he and his family put these things into place so that they were really raising their children and not giving up that responsibility. It also talks about biblical worldview, which I was really challenged by that chapter. It talks about how even people in the church who would call themselves Christian, and you would see from the outside that they are good Christian people, but their biblical worldview is so skewed that they are more secular than they even realize, and how that's leading to the crisis of young people leaving the church. Really good book, really challenging, and this hit me exactly where I've been the last couple months of just needing to take up that mantle and disciple my kids myself, really take on that responsibility in our home to an even deeper level than what we've done in the past. So if that's something that resonates with you, something you feel like is going on in your heart, definitely worth the time. As far as the books that we read with the kids this month, it has been a pretty short list. We are continuing on in the Green Ember series. Right now, we just finished up Ember Falls. And I talked about the Green Ember series last month in the books that we read, so I will link that video down below. Basically, you are following the story of these rabbits who are fighting back to keep their kingdom from the wolves and the birds of prey. This series has a very Lord of the Rings Hobbit type feel for me, this epic spanning battle. We finished book 1. It left us on a cliffhanger. We finished book 2. It's left us on a cliffhanger. And these books are really long. I think we're in book number 3 right now, and it's right around 450 pages, I think. So the author has just kept us engaged to where we are wanting to continue the series. We also had an audiobook going in the car this month. It was Wings of Fire, The Dragonette Prophecy. This is the first book in the Wings of Fire series. Now, my going into 5th grade kiddo has read most of these. I think he's up to book 14. I had never read them. And I will be honest, if you have a sensitive child, do not read this series, do not pick up this series, do not listen to this series, because when we put the audiobook in, I was shocked about how gruesome it really is, because my little guy I thought was pretty sensitive, and he's like, oh yeah, let's listen to this, and I'm thinking, this is rough. And I don't know if the difference is that as he reads it, he doesn't have that expression in his head that the narrator has when it's read in an audiobook, but I actually am thinking that we probably will not continue reading these. I don't even think I'm going to let him check them out from the library anymore. So those are the books that we read and completed in the month of June. So what's next? You guys know I like to keep a nonfiction book going at all times and a fiction book going at all times. I've already talked about our read aloud, that we have moved into book 3 of the Green Ember series because we are really loving that. As for my nonfiction book, I am just starting that one today, and it's Raising Resilient Kids. This is going to be a review book for me, and I took a little peek last week, and I don't think that this book is at all what I thought it was going to be. I was thinking mindset, but this looks like it might actually be physical health. We'll see as I get into it further, which still is a good fit for our family, but I think it's going to take a radical departure from what I was expecting. As far as my fiction book, I've already started this one. I'm about halfway through. It's The Endless Step by Esther Hotzig. I'm not going to share a whole lot more with you other than the fact that this is end of the World War II, and you're looking at a family who's been exiled to the Russian steppe and how they survive. Very good book. Another recommendation from Story of the World. You guys know I love their books. I'm reading this one personally and will probably pass it off to one of my kiddos. So those are the books that we read in the month of June, as well as a sneak peek into what's coming up in July. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what books you are loving, or if you see anything here that you would like to read as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.